Hi guys. If you get a chance, could you just turn off your video, your camera, and just mute yourself? I'll repeat that in a few more minutes. I'll just wait till everyone else jumps in. But if you're already online, you guys can just do that now. Another thing, just for a little bit of admin, is if you have a nickname on your Zoom account, throughout the presentation, if you get a chance just to rename yourself under your full name, that way, if you have any questions or things like that, we can allocate and see where you're at. So if you could just put your full name on your Zoom account when you get a chance, and we'll just start in a few minutes.
Michael?
Yeah. Oh, hey.
Hello. Michael, how do I do that? I can see Charlie's got his name on here. Where do I go?
I'm not sure yet, Vicky, but I know who you are, so.
Okay. All right. I'll just leave it there. I won't stuff around. I'll get him to fix it for this afternoon.
Sounds good, Vicky. Just put yourself on mute and
I will.
Your camera. Talk to you later. One of our current students, Vicky, there. I know she's not Charlie. And we'll probably just start in one more minute. There's just a few more people jumping in. Okay. So, might as well start. There'll be a few people joining us along the way. But hi, I'm Michael Alsop. I'm one of the educators here at ISCD, and this is the first of our new webinar series, and it's about transitioning into a career in interior design. And today we're lucky enough to have Emma Sterglousis. She is an ISCD graduate and she's a current student. So I'd just like to welcome Emma here today, and she'll be talking about how she transitioned from a career in finance, followed her passion into a career of interior design. So welcome, Emma.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Also joining us today will be Smita. So she's our course advisor. Some of you probably already spoken to her before in the past, or maybe in contact at the moment with her. So Smita, if you want to just say hi to the group here.
Yeah.
And she'll be on the live chat. So if you have any questions, just pop those questions on the live chat and she'll answer them during the webinar. She'll also have a little Q&A at the end where if you have any other questions about the course, about Emma's journey, or anything in general like that, you can just pop them in the live chat and we'll discuss it afterwards. I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but if you have a chance to just turn off your camera, put yourself on mute, as well as just renaming any nickname that your Zoom account might be under your full name, that would be really helpful. Okay, I'll just see if I can slide, there we go. So I might just hand over to Smita, who's just going to give any of those newcomers a little bit of a brief background into ISCD.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today. So most of you probably already know ISCD's been around for almost 40 years, 37 years to be exact, in 2020. And we've been producing, we're definitely the leader in interior design education in Australia. And we have been producing graduates since 1986. So I'll pass back to Michael and Emma now, but I'll be back at the end once Emma's concluded her presentation to take any questions that you might have and to give you a bit more information about our courses.
Awesome. Thanks, Nita. Okay, so let's jump straight in. So Emma, to get started, what prompted your career change?
Oh, it's been a long process, so I won't say it was something that I just woke up one morning and decided to change, but probably I've always had a passion for it, and when I was sort of deciding where I wanted to go when I left school, I always fancied being an architect, but that was just going to be too long, too expensive, so I kind of ended up doing law instead. So it was a bit of a jump, but and then that sort of led me to work with PwC, who I've pretty much worked with for 20 years. And in between that, they, about 10 years ago, gave me the opportunity to sort of cut my hours and do a part-time role. So I went down to 4 days a week. And with that, I took up the diploma in colour. And also, I think it was like a foundation in design course as well that you had to complete first at that time. So I did both of those. And then that was a full-time course, which was done in sort of 6 months. And then after I graduated, I carried on working with Pricewaterhouse, but also set up my little business, doing the colour through referrals, a little bit of local advertising in a sort of a local magazine, and then started to sort of pick up from there. And then I had 2 children a few years later, which kind of changes things even more. So trying to go back and do the corporate role, be a mum. I don't have a huge amount of family support to be able to sort of pick up the kids and drop them off. So trying to work around that. And then I ended up sort of having this kind of real sort of soul searching session about really where I wanted to head, when I was going to be able to put my foot down. And I decided, you know, I can't sort of do everything, and I'm just gonna, it's now or never, and I'm gonna back myself. And that's when I sort of decided, okay, I'm going to pull out. And then I also found that I was getting, with my colour jobs, starting to get more interior side jobs. So that was what prompted me then as well, just to kind of move on and do the diploma in interior design to fill in the gaps and kind of understand all the technical stuff like the SketchUps and the 3D modelling and the AutoCAD and so on and so forth.
And this is your beautiful website here. So setting up your business, was there any challenges and things like that? How did you go? What was the process about going about that?
I think it's a very organic thing for me. So I started off, as I mentioned, just kind of small, a little bit of advertising, and I had a different website to this before, and doing jobs for friends that you've done through actually doing the course, and that sort of moves on to referrals, and then with a little bit of the advertising, that was referrals, and then they get repeat jobs. And so it started from that point of view. And I guess being sort of open and taking any opportunity, because it's hard to sort of know what direction you want to take. So I was doing all sorts of different things. I did some work designing carpets for a golf club and doing all of their interior colour schemes. I've done strata buildings, and even from that strata building, just doing the colours, because I had to do everything for fire regulation. So a lot of the heritage stuff had to be ripped out because it didn't meet requirements. So it was quite sad doing that. And then I even got pulled into doing sort of heritage tiling designs and things. So things that you probably wouldn't normally do, and it's just great experience.
It's amazing how one thing can lead to the other though, really. Like you start off doing a colour job for a hallway in a strata building, the next minute you're doing the carpets, and then the carpet person has a interior job down the road. So it does lead from one thing to the next.
Very much. And I think that's what you've sort of got to do to help find. It's very hard to sort of say, well, this is exactly what you want to do. And you've also got to pigeon it to what the market is in the area that you live in. If you live in an area that's predominantly sort of new builds, and you've really got a passion for heritage, it's going to be hard to find that. So you've also got to think about what your market is and just go with the flow and get the experience.
And was this, I can see here on the screen that this is, I think, your renovation that you carried out?
Yeah, this was a renovation that was one wall away from the council turning around and saying knock down and rebuild. And then there's me on top of the roof covering with my fab builder, who's now retired, unfortunately. But we're obviously doing health and safety regs there.
Yeah.
I've got my hard helmet on there.
And is that I can see the floor plan of your kitchen. Is that the kitchen you're in now?
Yes, yeah.
So at least it all turned out to be, was built structurally sound. It's all good.
Yeah, and it's starting to look like that again on the walls where the kids have attacked it.
Yeah, well, we can't design proof for that, you know.
Right.
So moving on, this is a beautiful exterior shot of our Hawthorn project. So obviously down there in Melbourne. Do you want to tell us a little bit about this one that you've done?
This is probably, in hindsight, my first training of doing a colour consult via sort of Zoom type thing, because this is actually just before I left work. A colleague there had bought this. It was a full sort of renovation job, and they put extensions up top and through the back.
Right.
Obviously being based in Sydney, and he's also based in Sydney, it was doing a lot of it by sort of just asking questions and working out what the climate was like, you know, what way the sun's coming in, the direction of the house, etc., and just putting together. So it's more about doing a colour scheme, exterior and interior, for him. So it was kind of not actually being there does make it a bit harder.
Yeah.
So that was part of it. And then also it was for a rental. So it was important to make sure that the colour scheme was about the rental perspective of it, and ensuring that it entices sort of a broader market so he could rent it out relatively simply. I don't think he had any problem with.
No, but I guess that's one of the important things about being a designer. It's not just designing everything that you want, it's about understanding the brief, understanding the clients, understanding what their needs are. Is that one of the things that you've enjoyed about your new career as a designer? So what are the pros that you've found along the way? What are your, you know, the highlights and things that you've enjoyed through this transition of career?
I think it's essentially, I love meeting people and all the different, and understanding and chatting them. And I think one of the big things is when you're taking a brief is to really engage and have a conversation with the client and understand, because sometimes it's more about what you're having a discussion about sort of off the table, as opposed to what going through sort of checklists.
Yeah.
It's also great as well to be able to sort of play doll's house with someone else's house. But you've also got to be flexible, because you've got your taste and that might not be their taste, and you've got to work it around to what their you know, budgets are, their tastes, their family structure, where they live, and sort of the area as well. So you've got to have that commerciality and understanding, because there's no point in spending millions on somewhere that they're only going to get a few $100,000 for if they were selling it. And it's also just trying to work out what the purpose of the building is. Is it a rental? Is it somewhere they're going to be living? Do they have dogs? Do they have allergies, disabilities, all of those things, really getting deep in. So that's part of it. And also just getting out there and meeting different people that are involved in putting it together. So you're meeting different people with different skills, artisans, you know, whether it be French polishers, painters, builders. I think it's really important to try and sort of make connections with those people, because although you might get referrals from a client, it depends on whether they happen to be meeting that person at the right time. Whereas if you can build up relationships and good working relationships with trades and artists and furniture people and those things, then they've obviously got more of a moving level of people that they could potentially refer you to as well, and vice versa. If you like working with them, then it makes it easier for you if you're doing a job to bring those people in.
And how do you go about finding those clients? So even this Hawthorn project, and you've got this with Bondi one here, how have you in the past gone about finding them?
I think the biggest thing, if you're going to be starting doing the course, is you get, so the starting point, I would say, is when you get the assessments and assignments, try and get real clients. I'm not saying, you know, paid clients, but use real people, even if it's just your friends, because then you can sort of practice on them, really understand what it's like, because doing something that you're just in your own house is not really going to give you the problems and the issues that you're going to face in doing the real work. And then from that, you find that you just get people referring you to other people, which is how I did a job for a friend in North Sydney, and they referred me for the golf club. So that was because it happened to be their golf club, and she overheard them saying, this place, we need to upgrade it. And I got that job. And then this particular job in Bondi was through a friend who is a project manager, and they needed, it was a lot of the jobs for colour tends to be, I've got to basically 2 days to get the colour choices because they need to get this done. And so who do I call? And I got given the call for this, and it was like, literally a week to do that. And then as a result, they loved the colours from the exterior, and I got feedback actually from the builder because the specifications were so sort of clear and helpful in terms, even in the technology levels. So and then they called me back to do the interior, and a lot of it's also fitting together puzzles, because you can find you're going into a job where they've already chosen a lot of the flooring, the tiles, and you're sort of having to piece everything together to make everything work. And generally people are like, I just want one colour throughout, and so you've got to find that one magic colour. And it's always, I want 3 birds renovations, and it's okay.
It's like, I think you nailed it a little bit when you said when you're in the course, trying to apply it to almost as many real life scenarios as you can. So the course will give you that special set of skills, those interior skills, almost quoting Liam Neeson here with a special set of skills. And it's about how you then apply those skills. So you do, and you have all of these things in your toolkit, and then you go to your client, the site, and then they want all white. Okay, there's 300 different whites. So you then have to start applying your knowledge of, okay, we're at a westerly facing window here, which is going to get a lot of light in here, which is going to change the color of the white. This is the limiting the number of whites until you get that special magic white. So it is about, coming to a project with those skills and then really engaging with it.
Yeah. And you do become a bit of an agony aunt sometimes with it as well, because you build up the relationship, and then there's things go wrong. And I had one the other day where a builder kind of flew off at the client, and the client got a bit upset about it because she thought she'd done something wrong. So you're going, no, it's okay, we can sort it out. So sometimes it's it's just sort of getting in there, and but also it's a big thing because you're choosing one colour and you're often showing them in the size of an A4 or a little splash and moving it around. So trying to get their confidence that, yes, this colour's really going to work. And
you have to have confidence in your own ability as well. And then looking at how colour can change a space, we've got this before photo of this Coogee project, and then we've got this after. So, we've totally transformed this space. How did you approach this project here?
Basically, this was referred from a French polisher who was pulled in because it was a full Baltic pine sort of 90s style house. So everywhere, all the furniture, they've got sort of cabinets, everything, the floors. It was just kind of a Baltic pine overload. And very much it was the client, she wanted sort of visions that she's seen. So she sent me lots of images from Pinterest and kind of pieced it all together from that. The only thing I was told, and the only input her husband is, you dare touch the wood frames of the windows, they have to be left. So that was my only thing. But it was very much, she didn't want to spend on a whole gut out. So it was just using the original cabinets, which the French polisher used the colour schemes over, and then putting together the tiles and the lights and just pulling it all together. But it's also one of those ones where there was a lot of toing and froing, and again, I'm not sure about this, and so you've kind of going back and putting things together and doing full skirt circle, and then also understanding as well how they use the kitchen, because for me, having a single, you can see there's a single sink there, that would drive me insane personally, because I need the 2 sinks. I'm a cook, I enjoy doing that. But from her perspective, she was like, no, I'm happy with the 1 sink. So I think she got one of those roll-out draining boards in the end that sort of, that's like a little mat that rolls in and rolls away to have on the side. But she wanted just the 1 sink, and that was it. So we worked around that.
Yeah. Once again, the client does have the final say. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink, type of thing. And all you can do is try your best, you know, give them the best advice as you can. But this transformation is absolutely amazing. And I can see you've even picked up, you know, the timber from the window and tied it into the pendant lights there. The stone works beautifully against the splashback. So it's a really well considered design put together, and has really transformed that.
She was a lovely client too, so that makes it.
Yeah, that always makes it nice. It's a lot of easier job when they're nice. And then if we move on, so this is one of your current projects. I think it's due to be complete next year. And what's really interesting about this is, and to share with everyone, is once again the things that you learn within the course, and probably a whole lot of things outside of the world of finance that you learn to communicate your designs and communicate your ideas. So, you know, they can range from material boards to sketches, which I know you're really good at, but you also have these 3D renders, which obviously help sell your ideas to the client.
Yeah, with this one, this was basically a new build. So all the client really had was a slab and a few bit of framing when I went round. So they had a sort of a clear idea of what they wanted, something very sort of clean, the Scandi look. It's not about sort of styling the house to sort of that like magazine look. It was about just trying to work out a floor plan. This is their lifestyle and how you can fit furniture in that sort of matches their brief, so that it creates an ease of use. And there was a few sort of hurdles, like they desperately wanted to have the plantation shutters, which having those open can create issues in terms of you need to have space to be able to move those windows open and move around it without banging yourself on it. Sort of the ability to put things back out the way. They've also got sort of a dog, and they're potentially going to get other animals as well. So thinking about carpets, or the rugs, which were pet friendly. So little sort of bits and pieces like that. But with the SketchUp, so it was more about doing floor plans. They didn't want me to sort of source the furniture. It was just putting together a shopping list with sort of the styles and then the sizing of the furniture, and then give them ideas of where they could potentially go and get these items so they can shop. But it was more about the sort of look, where they can place things, and the maximum sizes they can have for all of those, and that idea. And then also they just wanted a bit of an idea, because it was, at the moment it was just the white, so I wasn't really doing colours or flooring for this one, but they just wanted something a bit more striking around the fireplace and the feature wall behind the TV as well. So that was,
I think that's you know, highlighting the fact that sometimes, even with the plantation shutters, some people see in a magazine, oh, I love plantation shutters, that's the only way to go, or I really love that Scandi style. The designer then has to take that on board and have to understand how they work. You know, as you highlighted, having plantation shutters, they have a swing when you open them. So, you know, placing a lounge up against it or things like that. You then have to work that out when you're doing the floor plan. You know, having a feature around the fireplace. You have to think of the materiality. Is it going to be heat proof? What's the structure around it? Things like that. Having this quite a deep color against, you know, a lighter timber. What's the consequences of that? So it's really about, you know, pulling together ideas for a client which will actually work. So turning those ideas into a realistic proposal.
Also with this, it's because they can only really see things on a slide. When you're trying to explain stuff, sometimes it's harder. So this makes it easier when they've got the visual. Because most of the clients have called you in because visually they just can't kind of see it.
Even understanding the volume of the space and things like that as well. Which technology like these 3D drawings and things like that really do help, you know, communicate to a client what a space will look and feel like before they're even in it, which is a really helpful tool. Yeah. So moving on to this lovely image of us, Emma. So this is just a photo of us when we were at, I forget what trade show was this?
I think it was in.
It was in.
Is it part of the Reed Fair or
yeah,
something? It was one of the last ones before COVID.
Yeah, before COVID, when people used to go out to conventions and stuff, which fingers crossed, hopefully will be next year and we'll be all back on. I guess this is just some things, even though we're on an online course, what we're trying to do is, and what we're trying to do before COVID is trying to do meetups as much as we can, going to design fairs together and things like that where, you know, we can touch, feel, communicate, network within the design world. And one of the beautiful things about the interior design world, and I'm sure, Emma, you can support me in this, is that we're a really friendly bunch. We like to help each other. It's not a really competitive market. Well, our experience hasn't been that. It's really helping each other out and things like that. So what I've kind of understood is that you went from the colour and then you moved into the interior design course. Why did you decide to add that onto your resume?
It was purely because when I was doing the continuing working in the corporate side, so when I was working with PwC, colour was an easier option because you sort of only have to have a few tools really, sort of your colour decks, and it's quite quick and easy. So it's not like I had to commit large amounts of time to bigger projects.
Yeah.
And I could control that and do it side by side with my other work. And then once I sort of decided to leave that, and I found with the other jobs that I was getting, so I was starting off doing colour, and it's like, oh, well, I've really enjoyed this. Can you come back and help do the furnishings for this? And people were sort of passing on. So I found I was doing more and more of that kind of stuff as well as. So it made sense to me because I just felt a lot of the stuff I was doing by hand, which is quite time consuming because I hadn't learned any of the skills on for SketchUp or AutoCAD, and why you don't really need to know to a level of an architect. It just helps to sort of have something that's, you say, helps you read the plans and get a bit more in depth in it. And also being able to say, because you can't really say you're an interior designer until you've got that diploma as well. So it was always an interior decorator. So it then gives me that ability now to be able to say, okay, well, we can start thinking about moving walls and do things differently as well. And just to sort of cement it. And it's good as well because it's given me the opportunity to do projects as I go along and try things. And once you're starting out on a business on your own, it's not always a full, moments where you have 3 jobs come in at once and then you'll have dry periods. So doing this alongside it with me has been really, really good because it's just kept the juices flowing and keep going.
Yeah, right.
But then I've been able to sort of pull away when I've had larger jobs. But now I've got more time as well. It gives me that ability to take on the larger jobs, which before, when I was doing 2 things at once, and then also when the kids came along, the idea of sort of being involved in a project that was maybe, some of them take 6 months, a year, you can be going backwards and forwards. So that's just hard to sort of commit to. So now that's a bit easier.
That kind of brings me to my next question, leads really well. And so how do you find the balance? Because you've obviously got 2 little kids that we can see there in the pictures. How did you find the balance between studying, the kids, working? So what did you find worked for you?
The online study is definitely much easier because it gives you that ability to work at your own pace. And I suppose because I've already completed a number of the components when I did the colour diploma a few years ago, I had quite a lot of exemptions. So that sort of gave me a push ahead. So really, I've almost finished it within a year as opposed to the 2 years because I had a lot of those exemptions. But it also gives me that opportunity just to kind of get myself ahead. So when I've got quieter periods, I can push myself ahead. And then when you kind of get a job coming in, or one of the kids is sick, or you've got to run around for here, or you want to go on holiday, school holidays, or the odd, pandemic gets thrown into the mix, it gives you that sort of flexibility to be able to sort of know that you're still on top of things as well. Whereas if you're sort of in a classroom environment, I think it would have been a lot harder because you've got to commit to that set day, and if that's a set day, that's where it's a bit harder. So this is, whereas when I did my diploma before, that was all classroom, and that was fine because I didn't have kids at that point, and I had those set days, so it was a bit easier. But it's not overly easy because there's a few curveballs get thrown in as they always do with kids. Like this morning I was thinking, I bet you any money one of them wakes up with a snivelling nose and I can't send them in and I've got to do a COVID test.
That's when you think everything's been ticked off. The kids are good away.
But it's just, I think you just got to be organised and try and sort of try and keep ahead, and then that's when it sort of makes it a bit easier.
And I think, knowing that us educators are here, Emma and I, we have a good relationship, and really our relationship developed online. And but we've got a whole group of educators who work here for you, like who are here to support you as well. And as I mentioned before, we're trying to do other things outside of the online world but COVID obviously has thrown a little curveball into that. But there is a support network online, and also your fellow students and things like that, that connection that you get with them as well. And they don't just become, at the beginning they become students, but at the end they're almost your colleagues, and they're the ones that, when you graduate and things like that, you're going to turn to for help. Everyone's got strengths in different areas, and you can always turn to them as well.
Yeah, very much so. There's and you kind of move in and out of different topics, and you'll meet different people on the way. But you tend to sort of end up running along with the same people, and they are extremely supportive. Even it's one girl who's in Wales. We've been communicating.
I don't think she'll be joining us now because I think it's 3 a.m. there.
But no, it's definitely supportive, and I think that's the thing, because when you do go out into the real world doing this, the difference for me from being in the corporate world where you're surrounded by colleagues, although probably not so much with COVID and everyone working from home, but the ability when you're doing this job ordinarily, can be quite sort of lonely because you're doing it on your own. So you do need to kind of get out there and meet people and network and talk. And so having those colleagues that you can talk to and bounce ideas off of is really helpful, and sort of makes you feel you're not alone, or you're facing a problem and go, oh, they've got this issue, or I've got such and such has happened, or I need this, can you give me some ideas? And most people are pretty willing to, and if they're not, well, okay, move on. But
do you think that's a skill that you found transferable from your world in finance to this? Because I can hear that you're quite good at networking. You stay in touch with the French polisher, you stay in touch with the builder, you stay in touch with people that you've done previous work for. Has that been a transferable skill from finance, or is it something you've learned along the way?
I think it's very much a skill that you have to have, because in the corporate world, one thing that's very different is when you're going into a job like PwC, you get given clients, so you've already got them, but and you've got a brand that you're working with, so you start with them. you've got that base. Otherwise, I wouldn't be employing you if there wasn't the work to take you on. And then, but within that, you've still got to make your own reputation. You've got to increase those jobs. You've got to bring in new work, and that's the expectation of you. So those are skills that you do get honed into you. You have all these training about sort of understanding clients, and so it's hard for that not to filtrate in some way and take it with you. But it's very important with this, you do need to go out, because you're not going to just suddenly finish a course and sit there and all of a sudden the phone's going to start ringing and people say, oh, I've got this job for you. You need to go out and network. And one thing I found really useful is there's the Chamber of Commerce, a local Chamber of Commerce, they have one Thursday morning every month, a networking, and it's all local businesses. And obviously at the moment with COVID as well, there's a real push on that to bring the economy and get the little businesses going. And it might not be that you turn up at those things and get work straight off the bat, but you start to meet and you get ideas off of other people that are in different industries. That will give you, say, this was worked for me, and you give advice to them as well. So it also just sort of makes you feel like a bit more like you're interacting with others. When you're on site, if you can, try and have chats with the tradies and get to know them and put your name out there as well. So just sitting there being shy is not going to work. You sort of do have to go beyond those skills, and you meet some amazing people, and everyone really does want to help people, and especially at the moment. So that's sort of the big advice. And if you haven't got something like that, then I'd probably even start something, because you'd be amazed at how many people do. And with this group, we've got property developers, real estate agents, buyers agents, architects, social media people, all sorts of kind of hotel, someone who sort of works at hotel up the road, cafe owners. So it's all different walks of life, and so they've all got very different perspectives and can help you and bring different views in. So that's something that's been.
It's really about you get back what you put in. If you go to those things, you're right. You're not going to rock up there and get the whole brand new cafe project on your first day. But you never know that you start going there for a couple of months, and then they need to do their renovation, and then they've got you already in their head. So it is about putting you getting back what you put into any situation, really. Yeah. So to wrap up a little bit, do you have any advice to people that may be apprehensive about a career move or entering into a course or studying, anything along those lines?
I think you just got to try and back yourself. I think just remember that everyone's kind of nervous about it. No one can really tell you what's going to happen and how it's going to work. It is hard, and it's obviously depends on people's financial situations as well, because it's not something that's going to bring in a ton of money through the door, especially in the first angles. But it's just about just trying to take opportunities, and then those times when you feel things are probably a bit slower or you're uninspired, then that's the point where you sort of make a list of things that you can do. Go out and meet suppliers, go out and meet trades, go out and talk to people, pick up the phone, have a coffee with someone that does.
Stroll around the showroom.
Yeah, that's it. It's hard, and I think half of it is just having a bit of confidence in yourself, because if you're doing it and you're doing well, you've got the ability, and you've just got to try and believe in yourself and go for it.
Oh, thank you, Emma. They were really, really great words of advice, and I think I might just bring back Smita now. Hi, Smita.
Hi, everyone. And
what we might do is, if there was any direct questions for Emma or myself, do you want to direct them towards us, and then perhaps we can talk about the course a little bit more after that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had a really interesting question from Ali. First one was to Emma and Michael. Do you outsource any of your work at all, especially AutoCAD, just to save yourself time in your business?
Not at the moment. Probably depending on sort of the sizes of jobs, that'd be something I'd probably look into in the future. But at the moment, it's something that I do because it helps me get my head around stuff. So outsourcing that at this precise moment is not something that I do, but I know that it is sort of something that some people do, and it does take a lot of time, I have to add in, but obviously the more you practice at it, the quicker you get at it as well.
Yeah, I think like anything, everyone has their strengths. Some people are whiz at a computer and they'll pop up 3D models within an hour and you've been sitting on it for 3 days. So there's obviously going to be strengths, and if you get a point where you think, I'm in my business and that's taking me too long, you may make the educated decision to outsource that. As a little bit of advice, I would suggest getting to know as much as you can about all aspects of the interior design world. That way you can kind of take control a little bit of your business, and you know, if you ever do get stuck, that you can complete a project on your own.
So there's quite a few questions coming in specifically about software. I'll start with the first one. So there's one from Miraya. What software do you use for mood boards?
I literally just use Photoshop and InDesign pretty much. So just picking up images and then I set them up on InDesign, and that's quite a quick, easy process.
Yeah, I use Photoshop and Illustrator. It's kind of like, and just talking about software in general, in our course we teach the Adobe Creative Suite, we teach SketchUp, we teach AutoCAD. We kind of advise people, we'll give you the tools, but we can't teach you everything about these programs. The programs are huge. So basically what we do is we give you the basic tools, basic ways to design with these things, with these programs, and then it's up to you to then really hone those skills. And once again, it's about what you put in is what you get out of it. If you really knuckle down and work hard in these programs, you can really create some amazing things with them.
Our next question's from Zita Paprota. She asked, do you need to know how to use SketchUp and AutoCAD, and if so, why?
You don't need to know how to do it to do the course. I think it's like everything, you need to work out what tools work for you. If you're someone who's a quick sketcher and can do that, then that helps. But I think with AutoCAD helps you just in terms of the mathematical side of it and making sure that everything fits in. So SketchUp also has those facilities, and it's just easier. If you make mistakes with these things, it's easier to move around, whereas if you're hand drafting sort of the equivalent of what you would do on AutoCAD, it looks great, but it just, if you make a mistake, you kind of got to start all over again, whereas you can just hit the delete button, so it makes it easier. In terms of learning them, they're quite daunting at first. I remember looking at AutoCAD and thinking, my God, I feel like I'm in a cockpit of an aeroplane with all these lights around. I have got no idea. But trust me, if I can do it, anyone can do it. And it's just playing around with it, and it makes it a hell of a lot easier and quicker than sort of trying to sit there and hand draw everything, because hand drafting is useful and you need to understand how to do it, but it's time consuming.
We've got quite a few questions as well about how you priced your services in the beginning as well. So the first question was from Ray Linton. She actually asked in the beginning of the webinar, when you first started, Emma, what did you charge for your colour consult services? How did that change over time as you gained more experience? So those are the two main ones about pricing.
Colour consulting is the only one where I've actually got sort of a set hourly rate on that. So the market for where I was around that sort of 150 an hour mark. So that's where I've pitched it, but I think some people go from ranges like 90, even further up. So that's how I kind of kept it. But obviously there'd be times where you maybe spend a bit more time than that. So you kind of get a bit of discretion in there, because you think, well, I've actually been there for 4 hours, but I've maybe had a cup of tea and a chat, and you feel I can't really charge for that hour for that. Yeah. So you become quite, I generally don't charge for travel time unless I was going hours and hours out as well. So that's how it sort of works. And then if you're doing sourcing on top of that, so if I've got to go and get tiles and samples of tiles or surfaces, then generally I do a half sort of hourly rate. But again, that's kind of, it's not the travel time, it's just sort of how, if I've spent an hour there, then that would be on top of it.
I suppose you use this,
Sorry, and then in terms of how it's changed, that fee probably hasn't changed for the colour, so that's the easier bit. The harder one is when you're doing the bigger projects, because that's where you've really got to sit down and try and work out. People don't really want to be paying you by the hour for those things, so they want to have a standard fee, so they know this is what you're doing and this is how much it's going to cost me at the end. So you just generally do a scope of services, get an understanding, and I tend to do a initial briefing if for a bigger project. So I'll go out and I'll meet with them and charge around about the 300 for that, and I don't set a time limit with it, because if I'm there for 4 hours, I'm there for 4 hours. I've just got to get the information, and I don't want them sitting there looking at the watch going, oh, I've only got 2 hours with you, I don't want to pay more. So that's kind of where I start. And then some people say, well, that's enough for me to kind of, I just needed to jolt in the right direction. And then you don't do any more, or they want you to kind of carry on. And that's where you've got your scope of services from that. And then you just need to kind of work with it. And to be honest with you, the first few you do, you're probably desperately underpriced. But that's part of the learning curve of working where you go. But you've kind of got to make sure you charge for what you're doing and what you're worth.
Yeah.
There's one question from Annetta Schultz. And I think you kind of touched on this as well earlier. Do you work on your own, and does it get especially lonely, especially in a creative space? Or do you have a network of designers that you lean on for when you're not sure about selections?
So it's a bit of both. It is quite sort of lonely, and that's why I was saying that it's important for you to get out there and network and meet people. And it's on my to-do list. I think COVID's kind of thrown a few spanners in the work just to try and meet people just in different spaces, whether it's suppliers or trades, and just have chats with them. I've also, funnily enough, things like Instagram, I don't really feel that it's the platform for me to sort of do the advertising. I use it as my sort of address book and my sort of area where I get my inspiration from, rather than sitting there stressing out about putting posts on every day and how many followers you've got, because that you would depress yourself. So it's using that to sort of find people and think, oh, that they look interesting, and make a connection. And I've gone out for coffees with other designers that do different aspects, and they're involved in different parts of it. Talking to magazine editors and things like that as well. Just trying to get different perspectives on different angles, and again, it gives you different inspiration and just keeps it going. Because if you sit and just try and work on your own, you kind of become a bit stale. So, and it's not, and I think some people think, oh, if I go and talk to another interior designer, are they thinking that I'm trying to pinch their work, or are they going to pinch my work? And it's not like that at all. It's just everyone's got their different approaches. So
and Mita, it really depends on what field of design you go into. So we've got many of our alumni who work in showrooms and who work already in interior design firms. So they're already in established offices or companies, and they've got really strong connections still with ISCD and within their own business. And then you've also got the other hand where, like myself and all of the other educators have their own businesses. And I went and saw Emily, another educator, last week during her photo shoot. So I like to, back up what Emma says. It's about just staying connected within the industry, whatever way you can. And then that's how you can kind of, you get that support.
On the same topic, there's following your responses, there's been some questions about, I know you're both based in Sydney, but for those based in Melbourne who are in with COVID, do you have any tips or tricks or online websites that you could recommend to help designers network, given recent events?
LinkedIn, there's a few sort of little groups with specifically for design groups as well. So they're things that you could do. It's either that or you just flag out there, try and find Facebook groups and things that you might be able to pick up a few people that might be interested in just meeting up. But it's just worth, I know that I was contacted via Instagram by one interior designer a while ago just to say, can I just have a chat? And then we Zoom each other, and because it was when we were all locked down at this end. But that would be the only sort of main ones. I don't know, Michael.
I think maybe off the top of my head, because I'm not from Melbourne, so I know you are. But I'll probably say if you join like Design Institute Australia, like people like that, I'm sure they would be running, they normally run events where people can catch up, but perhaps in Melbourne they'll be running things, online things. That's what I'm assuming. So maybe go to industry partners and things like that. I don't have that off the top of my head.
We can definitely find out more online ways for networking for you.
But Smita, I'm just a little bit cautious of time. So there's a lot of questions. Okay, did you want to pop in and just talk about the course a little bit, and then perhaps at the end we can, with the remaining minutes, answer any more questions?
Yeah, only 10 minutes left. Perfect. Okay. So, quick overview of our 2 accredited courses, Certificate 4 in Interior Decoration and the Diploma of Interior Design. So similarities, the main differences between the 2 are the duration, the qualification, and the course fees and methods of payment. Otherwise, both we have intakes monthly on the last week of every month. Duration, the Certificate 4 is 12 months, Diploma is 2 years. They're both delivered in exactly the same format. We use a really interactive learning management platform called Canvas. So you can study in your own time from the comfort of your own home. It is self-paced, but we do have a minimum requirement for each course so that you stay on track for every study block and don't fall behind. You're given complete flexibility for both to manage your own time. So whether you're an early bird and you want to study at 5 a.m. or on the weekends and condense all your study over Saturday and Sunday, that's up to you. So entry requirements for the Certificate 4 of Interior Decoration, it's a Year 10 high school certificate or equivalent Cert 3 and a minimum age of 16 years. It's $7,450 and methods of payment include either upfront, biannual, or you can pay monthly over 10 months, bringing that to $745 a month. The Diploma of Interior Design is $13,500. It's a Year 12 minimum and a Cert 4 or a Cert 4 equivalent and 18 years of age. Now the payment methods there are either upfront and biannual again, or monthly over 16 months. So that will bring it to $844 a month if you wanted to go down the direct debit route. Otherwise, the diploma is fully covered under VET. So you don't have to pay a single cent out of pocket if you choose not to. You can work that out tax return time. So the Certificate 4 in Interior Decoration, you'll become a qualified interior designer. There are 2 study blocks, both 6 months long, and 8 subjects in total. So you'll go through the
decorator.
Did I say, what did I say?
You said designer. I thought,
Decorator.
we're just checking that I was listening, and I was listening.
I meant decorator. 8 subjects in total, and listed on the screen there. So the kind of career outcomes you could get are very similar to what Emma and Michael were talking about before. You could be a color consultant. You could be a home stager as well. You could work for magazines and be a stylist for them, for example, House and Garden or Inside Out. Yeah, that's the certificate for it in a nutshell. Diploma of Interior Design qualification here is Interior Designer, decorator. This one's 2 years long, and you have 4 study blocks instead of just the 2, and they're all 6 months long, 24 weeks, and 4 subjects in each study block. So you'll have 1 assessment every 6 weeks for every subject. Okay. Job outcomes, you could be obviously freelance as an interior designer. You could work for a firm, start off as a studio assistant if you like, and you are qualified in everything that an interior decorator can do as well. So
yeah, and we've built both the courses have been built to basically start off wetting your feet in the world of design. So looking at foundations of color, communications being how you can draw and show your ideas, work on design history, and then we build upon that. So then we go, okay, communications 2, we start looking at more detailed drawings, looking at applying the color knowledge that we know. Then interior concepts, that's when you're really honing in on the finer details of design, really thinking about, okay, how do I make my idea into a reality? Looking at hard materials, looking at residential decoration, putting these ideas into AutoCAD, and then finally design studio. We almost talk about this study period almost being like colleagues again. This is when you're really coming into your own, you've really established a style. By this stage, you've established your business business administration, and we try to put more as close to real life design briefs together as possible for that final design studio, ready for your venture into the real world of design. Yeah.
Cool. So moving on to short courses. So short courses are, we have 3 lovely short courses. And you might enroll in a short course for different reasons. You could be really curious about changing careers, in which case the short courses are the perfect way to test the waters, content-wise and delivery-wise if you're new to online learning. They're a small commitment time-wise and financially, and they're an additional 30% off right now. So styling will cover the very basics of all things decoration, lighting, spatial planning. Color it's not geared specifically towards interior design, but more color in general, color theory, terminology and psychology, and how lighting affects color. And the last one, surface design. So all about repeat pattern making, fabrics and textures. So usually they're $650, now they're $455. And you can use the code now, save now on the screen if you wanted to enroll at all.
Sorry, Smita. I was just going to quickly say, because we are quickly running out of time, I just want to make sure that if you can change your nickname to your real name, and then that way we can contact you because we've got your details with some of those answers if we can't get to them. So that'll be a good way of us getting back to you. So if you do have any of those questions, just pop them up in the chat. Yeah.
Do we have time for a couple more questions
now?
now?
I think we've got time for a couple more questions. I just wanted to let everyone know that, if they just changed their nickname, so then we can get back to them if we don't get around to it. But yeah, let's answer a few more questions just to round it off.
Okay, beautiful. So I'll just go in order of when they were sent. So we have one from Michael Goodman. What kind of jobs would you be able to do as a color designer if you didn't want to start your own business? Color consultant would come to my mind.
There's lots of jobs you can do. Like there's opportunities to work in decorating stores, you know, Porter's Paints, their stores are absolutely lovely. And you can become a color specifier. There's lots of little areas you can go down. There's like, you know, even boutique design stores and things like that where, you know, a knowledge of color is really important. Even looking at people who design kitchens and cabinetry, they have to have that understanding of color in a space.
Beautiful. So a question to Emma, where do you advertise and where do you put your ad when you're doing your business?
I haven't done huge amounts of advertising, to be honest. So all I've done is just a local magazine. So we have one here called The Beast, which I did quite early on, and I got quite a bit of work out of that. But if you're going to do it, you need to sort of think about what your market is, what the area is that you want to work in. So trying to find sort of a local magazine. It doesn't need to be massive. It's just a small section, and it usually is about, at that time, it was about $400 or $600 to put it in for that month. And that's sort of the main advertising that I've really done. And other things, it's just using social media a little bit, and LinkedIn. So I was given some advice because it's really easy to get full on absorbed with, as I mentioned before, Instagram and followers. And I tend to use it more as that's showing my portfolio and getting inspiration. So advertising on that probably doesn't work so well for what we do because we're so much more in a smaller network. It's not like you're selling a product that can go off all the way around the world. And for me, the type of target client it's an age bracket that don't really spend too much time on Instagram. They're more LinkedIn and Facebook. So they were the areas which I've sort of concentrated a bit on, and that's just where you sort of put a few of your portfolio and bits and pieces up, or your inspirations, and that kind of helps. And then also, if you are someone who's quite good at writing, I did a lot of sort of thought leadership work through my corporate side of things, so I quite enjoy doing the same thing, thought leadership ideas, you know, how I did one on sort of the impact of COVID on design and things like that. You can then move into sort of LinkedIn and show on there. So it creates a bit more of an interaction and makes people sort of aware of what you do. Things might not be instant, but at least they sort of put an idea in people's heads when they need you.
Definitely. So I have a question. The next question's from Dilmini. Hi, Emma. Thank you for the insightful webinar. Do you have to deal with building codes when designing? If so, how do you approach it?
For colour and that side of it, not quite so much. And most of the jobs that I've been involved in so far, I haven't had to do too much of it because that's generally the jobs of the architects and the builders. But you do need to be aware of it because some of your decisions can make impact on it. For example, there's sort of regulations about ceiling heights for rooms. So if you're moving rooms around for purposes, you've got to be just aware of that you can't have a certain room under a certain height, for example. And then it might be a case that if you're putting flooring in there, then that flooring might adjust the height. So it's just kind of having a general understanding of where to go. That's also, I mean, you understand and learn that all through the course. It's not like you've got to have this full in-depth about how every single measurement is, but just at least have an understanding that that's where you need to go when you're thinking of doing something and pick it up. And it's the same with any building, just doing research to see whether there's any heritage restrictions on stuff. And sometimes the properties that you think there aren't, and vice versa. So it's just everything that you do before you sort of jump in and go, yeah, great, we're going to do this. It's important just to do a bit of research in the background to make sure that you know all of the restrictions that you've got placed on you. But it's more about if you're going to go in knocking walls down and those things which you wouldn't do, you've got to get engineers and specialists to do. But you come in with these ideas, so having some form of idea of them is great, but generally it's builders, and it'll be that sort of, you know, suck in air of the build, go, don't think we can do that, love.
Yeah.
So,
and then you work out a good solution between you both, you know.
Yeah, well, I'm going to do it, so you're going to find a way.
Yeah, we're going to find a way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful. All right. Well, there's lots of thanks to you, Emma and Michael. Very insightful information. We can certainly send everybody the questions that have been asked with all the responses out to everybody. That'd be helpful. And if you do have any other questions, feel free to contact us directly, and we can give you personalized advice based on your situation. You might be career changing, or, you know, just curious. Very quickly about the software, there's one question about software and whether it's included. The AutoCAD software and SketchUp is free in the course, and but the Adobe Creative Cloud, you will have a student subscription.
Yeah, and we do recommend in the later half of the course, so perhaps the from study block 2 onwards, getting a student version, which is, I think, maybe $70 a year. Maybe I'm saying that, for SketchUp. You can use a free version of it. We just find that the tools and stuff are a lot better. It used to always be free, but then, yeah, now you have to pay for a subscription.
Yeah.
But there's options to not do that if you don't need to, if you don't want to.
Beautiful.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I think that's it. Emma, thank you so much for the chat today, and taking the time out of your day to you know, share your experience and what you went through to change careers. And thank you, Smita, for giving us all your help along the way and insights into the course. So what we'll do is we'll try and get back to as many of you as we can with those answers. And feel free to follow us on our socials, and feel free to make any comments or questions through those channels as well. So hopefully see you guys soon as well.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.